Sign up now at elevate.miami.edu for my course, Organized Rhyme.
Looking at the word legacy, while involving some wordplay, I'll use the first syllable to build upon. We'll use the first syllable, leg. For the second syllable, we'll use an. And for the third syllable, we'll use the word knee. So now we have leg and knee. Can we use it in context with legacy? Let's just see.
Wordsworth Productions with a S.com for all merch. I got 2 books available right now. Words Are Worth Volume 1, and I also have a children's book called Socks. Age range from 12 to 15, so it's kind of like the middle school and high school age range, but adults can read it as well. What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of What Words Are Worth, and today I got a special guest. This guest is a journalist, a radio host, somebody that cares about the culture of what the power of words have when you read them and when you hear them, and able to talk about various topics. He could talk about hip hop. He could talk about sports. He could talk about life. He could talk about politics. Whatever you want to talk about, he has that gift to be able to talk about it. It's right up his alley. I welcome to the stage, super dope, infinite podcast host, DJ Soundwave. What up?
Oh man, that's an intro of all intros, man. Salute for that. Big up Wordsworth, man. I appreciate you doing that. And it's weird being on this side of it because I'm always the one writing the intros, and like you're on a recent episode of mine, doing the research and like, all right, how do I tell people who this person is and how do I let them know and get hyped because this person's coming on and we got to get them all excited. So it's kind of weird. You'd be like, oh man, he's saying too much nice things. Where's the he's a weirdo and where's the
Nah, man.
Man, appreciate it though, man.
Oh yeah, man. No problem, man. For those that don't know, DJ Soundwave has interviewed your favorite artists, your favorite maybe celebrities, maybe authors. He just does it all. And I've been on the other side, and it's been dope to be interviewed by him, and he's very thorough with the questioning and everything. But I felt that, me being interviewed, I've often noticed that I'm being interviewed by people that have a past as well that's very historic, and they have a journey and a story to get to where they got to. And also the fact that they're doing it at a high level. And the main thing that I noticed too is that the integrity behind it versus how easy it is to do it today. So that's why I feel it's special to highlight how dope you are and the journalists that interview me as well, because they have a past. I interviewed Nesquick, that's his artist name, and he also has a show called That's Hip Hop Podcast. Right. And I thought it was dope to do that because I didn't know I knew he rapped, but I didn't know how his story to get to where he is with the podcast. And a lot of us are just the same, like we love hip hop.
That's the opening of the door, right? That's how we first get into it, right? And then other things stream out of that.
Yeah. So the commonality of us loving hip hop. So I feel like, I've had my journey. People know my journey, but I think everybody's journey is valuable, and we all have books to inspire. And there's going to be somebody during this interview that's in the media realm. I teach TV production in the morning. So I teach TV production. So we do everything with the writing and teleprompter and all of that. And I have students that want to get into this, get into what you're doing. Right. So hopefully this inspires some of those students and other people to say, I've always wondered what that journey was like. What should I do? Where should I go? So, man, so I appreciate you doing this, and it's going to be another realm and inspiration for those out there.
Yeah. The podcast thing, it's weird because I came into it in reverse, like somebody who actually worked in radio, and I went to college for radio. I went to Columbia College here in Chicago.
I'm going to get into that.
Okay. Yeah. I'll save it. But
Save a little bit of that. But
the only thing I'll say is that I saw a lot of people were doing podcasts, and I was looking like, man, they don't have any background like I do. Like, I'm not trying to, pump my chest or whatever, right? But I feel like, someone like yourself who does a podcast, you have a lot to offer because you have a background in, hip hop music and education. And my background be more like, I know what it's like to book a guest, and I know what it's like to look for somebody that fits what I'm trying to do. It doesn't always, there's always, rough patches where it doesn't work 100% the way you want it. But yeah, that's the idea, man, is to know what you want to do, get that clear vision and then, go for that. And yeah, podcasting's fun, man. It's definitely, I've been doing it. I'm coming up on 7 years on February 26th. So it's crazy.
Yeah, man. Congratulations, man.
Thanks, man.
I did see something. I remember Vlad said it takes about 7 years when it really starts to, take off too. So hopefully this is that year when it just, like he said, skyrockets, man. Well, let's start with your origin and the name, where you're from and how'd you get DJ Soundwave?
Oh man, there's so much there. So
talk about it.
Yeah, I grew up in Chicago. I still live outside of Chicago. It's called Mount Prospect. It's like near the airport. But I grew up, born and raised Rogers Park, which is like the north side of Chicago. And as a kid, we're about the same age, so you probably can relate to this a little bit. Around 85, I started getting, like ideas of like this music that was out. It wasn't really new to other people. It was new to me though. And this cat was walking around. This kid I went to school with, and he kept saying Gucci underwear. And I remember like, what are you talking about? What does that mean? And I was like, he's like, you need to listen to this song called Lottie Dottie. So that was like the jump off for me. Because I was a dude listening to like Prince and Michael Jackson and Duran Duran, which is, I still like those artists. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah,
but
nobody.
Yeah, but then like when I heard Lottie Dottie, it was like on another level. It grabbed me, and I was like, this is like nothing I've never heard, and I need more of it. So I looked for that, and where am I going to find it? On the radio. And here in Chicago, the station WNUR 89.3, which is Northwestern's university radio station. That's where I found out they were playing this music. It was called the All Rap Party on Friday nights with VJ the DJ. Now, his name doesn't ring out like, Red Alert or Mr. Magic or something. But for me as a kid and, 10 years old, 11 years old, it was like this dude was the guy.
Yeah.
And on Saturdays, they had another show called Street Beat. I think the guy's name was Andy Mixon Moscow, so I hope I'm getting that right. And he would play like hip hop stuff, but they would like mix it because it's Chicago, so they play some like house songs, and they'd mix it up. And I would record those on the pause tapes. And I guess why I'm saying all that is like that's what got me into the music and the culture, but it also made me realize, well, I know I can't rap. I'm probably not going to be good at DJing. I mean, I'm okay at it, but I want to work in a field or something that presents what I like to people. And hearing these guys talk about, they're playing all these songs that I like, I was like, man, I want to do that. And I was like 10 or 11 thinking that. And then, I went to Columbia College, which is one of the schools that's known for radio and television and film and things like that. So went there and worked on the college station. I hosted a hip hop show with my guy, DJ Real One, called The Illinois for a couple of years. That was crazy. He would bring his turntables into the station and mix live, and I would host it and answer the phones, and we catch all the requests and everything, and then I just kind of ended up working at a sports station for about 15 years, man, which is crazy. And once that ended, I was just like, man, what am I gonna do? Everybody's doing a podcast. I think I could do that. And I got enough experience.
Did you get your name? Where did you get the sound?
Oh yeah. Oh man, I totally skipped that. Yeah. So. I'm a big Transformers nerd, so that should be obvious by the name. So, I got
Soundwave here at my house. Yeah.
Oh, you do? See, here's the funny thing, and this is criminal. I don't even have a Soundwave toy. Isn't that just? I have a blaster, the Autobot version, the red and yellow guy. But I've got him on my list. I need to correct that wrong. But anyway, when I first started DJing around 2003, I started buying records and stuff, and I don't recommend this, but I got some extra money for my student loan. I used it to buy turntables and records.
I did the same. I bought Timberlands and Polo.
Oh, so do you still have any of those?
I got where you going.
There you go. And I was just like, man, I always wanted turntables. I got this extra money. I remember going back to the school and I was like, you guys send me another check. Like, oh, that's the other money. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I already paid for the classes. Why are you giving me more money? Don't give a 20-something-year-old like extra money. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I bought turntables and records. And then I was like, I need a DJ name. And I started thinking of names. And, you probably know Wordsworth. How about you? When you picture MC names. I'm sure you had some names you were like, you cringe when you think of like some ideas you had at first before you got to Wordsworth. I was like Mark B. I was like, oh, that sounds too 90s. Like I can't use that. And so I just said, you know what? I like Soundwave. I like Transformers. I'm not aware that somebody else had that name. I think there is somebody with that name also. But regardless, that's how I came about it. I was like, you know what? Let's do that. It sounds cool.
So, you're DJing. Of course, you got this journey going on that we're going to delve into. But what was that moment of like when you were younger and you said, okay, I want to do that, like become a host or radio? Was it like seeing a certain anchor? Was it somebody hosting? Like what made you say, I want to become that? Like I know, like when I, like for instance, like Stephen A. Smith, you could hear how boisterous he is, but you also know he can also kind of tap into knowing that you had Howard Cosell and all these other hosts, right? We know that there's a Tom Brokaw. We know there's like a list of people that we know with the name and make you go, I want to do that. So what was that moment?
Well, I would say, like I mentioned before, probably the first initial one was hearing those hip hop shows in Chicago on 89.3. Like those kind of sparked the interest. It's like, oh man, not only do I like this music, but and it's kind of weird for like a 10 or 11-year-old to say, but maybe that's normal. I don't know. For me, it was normal. It's like, man, I really want to do that. So I was like recording the songs. And I don't know if anybody's ever done this. You know how people make pause tapes, but I did it differently.
Yeah.
I would introduce the songs on the pause tape. So it was like crazy.
Okay.
I would be like, oh, this is Run DMC. It's like that. You're listening to Mark Joliffe here on bedroom radio, whatever. I don't know what I was doing. Then I would play the song, pause it, get back on. All right, now we're playing the Fat Boys or whatever. And man, if I play those tapes, I have them in the storage. I should probably bust one out.
You should, man. You should. Yo, I think that's so dope because being able to have that stuff. Now we know how valuable it is to have stuff. I think when we were younger, we were living the moment so much that we didn't really like. I wish I took more pictures now, right? We wish we documented more. We didn't know.
Man.
Like, everything.
You're right about that.
So I would definitely. I think that's a dope thing, man. If you still have them, I would love to hear those.
Yeah, I have all these cassettes of all those times, and the main thing is like I don't know about you, but I'm scared to play them because I don't know how they're going to work. Like they might break. Yeah. Or I always hear like the generations of quality over the years, they start to, turn into nothing. Like the tapes just, they're garbage after a certain amount of time. So I'm like kind of scared to play them, but I kind of fascinated because it's like a time machine, man, playing cassette tapes of anything, let alone something you're involved with. I'm sure you've got some tapes of your early freestyles or sessions you did, and you probably hold on to those things dearly, but hopefully you've put a lot of them into digital.
I just saw I was watching, I believe it was watching YouTube, of course, and they had a Smithsonian is now a lot of the cassettes and videos, they're doing the restoration on them so they could last longer. So I saw that too. Yeah. So like you said, over time it can kind of start deteriorating.
Right. And to answer your question, so like that was like the jump off for me, I guess. And then eventually like sports radio became a thing like in the 90s. And here in Chicago, the station that's the king here is like, it's called The Score. And that's where I worked for, over a decade. And I started listening to them, and I'm a big Cubs fan, a Bulls fan during the 90s, of course, Bears. And so I would listen to hear like what's going on with these teams. And just like with, like I was saying with, the hip hop shows, like this is similar. I was like, well, I know how to talk about baseball and football. I watch it every day. Like I know, how people are, they think they know everything until they do it. But, I started thinking like that, like maybe that's the road, maybe music won't lead me to the radio thing, but maybe sports talk would. So that's actually ended up being more the focus eventually when I got to college, because I did host a college sports talk show called Sports Underground for years.
Dope.
And man, I was so blessed. I got to interview like Sparky Anderson and Kirby Puckett, George Foreman, who recently passed. And I was like, man, I need to find that cassette when I was talking to him from like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So that kind of also really got the ball moving. And then I ended up doing an internship. And for those who don't know what that is, as far as the radio is, like you go work for a radio station for free for like 6 months.
Yeah.
So I was like waking up at like 4:30 in the morning to be downtown, to do the morning show 3 days a week. I don't know how I did it, dude. I couldn't do it now. I would die if I had to do that now. Waking up that early, but you learn the ropes, man. You do it, even though it's menial work. Sometimes you're getting food or coffee for somebody, but you're watching them work and you pick up things, hopefully. And eventually, if they like you, they're like, hey, why don't you stick around and work here? Next thing I know, I'm there for like, like I said, 10, 15 years. So that was till like 2018. So yeah, my two avenues basically for getting into radio was like, initially it was like hip hop music and those shows, and then kind of transition into sports a little bit.
Yeah, I want to delve more into it, because I'm going to go into the hip hop arena of where you started with Illinois. But being that we're at the, talking about the score, how'd you get the production side of it? Like, how did you become a producer? Like, what did they notice in you to say you could be a producer? Or, I know when I was doing the Lyricist Lounge show, I paid attention to every part of the show. I didn't just care about me rhyming. I was like learning what the directors did and things like that. So what did they notice in you that you had acquired to become a producer?
That's a great question. Yeah. So I did an original internship at another station called, what was it called? Sporting News Radio. And I don't think they're around anymore. They're like a big magazine from back in the day. And I think they're still around as a publication. So I did an internship there and learned some of the basics of like editing audio. So fast forward to when I interned at the Score, that was one of the jobs they asked for me to do. And I was like, I already know how to do that. I know how to use Cool Edit Pro. And actually that's what I use now for the podcast. I know I'm dated because most people don't use that. They use like, I don't know, other platforms for editing audio and stuff. But I use Cool Edit, which is kind of an older platform for application. So yeah, I started using that. And so at the Score, when I was an intern, they would send in like, let's say the Bears had a big game and the coach spoke for like 10 minutes. They would hand me a cassette. This is like 2003. They hand me a cassette tape and they'd like, put this into the computer and edit them into like 10 to 20 second individual cuts. That was a lot of work to do that. So that was like, that's what got the ball rolling, and people like saying, oh, he could do that. Now he could be a producer, and producer is more than just that. That's just like one aspect of it, radio. Depending on what they ask you to do. Like if you're working a live talk show, your jobs are mainly booking guests, helping with setting up the show. Like, what are we going to talk about? Here's the discussion. Here's the topics. Pulling live reads where they say something about an advertisement on air, and just getting the host ready for their show. Whatever they need to do, you've got to do it. And then you run the board. There's all the buttons and everything. Turns on the microphones and plays the commercials and plays the music. So all these things I kind of went into it, and I kind of got better at each one as time went on. And I would say, but the thing I was good at, to me, was cutting up audio. And that kind of leads into the podcast, because I do that all the time. Like when you were on, you maybe talk for like an hour. I'd probably clip like 3 minutes of, dead air or yawns or, whatever, just to clean it up. And that was the job there. So I took those skills to the podcast for sure. And they saw that I could do that. And I think that's hard. Not a lot of people have the ear for listening to something and knowing what part is good to keep, what part needs to go on the floor. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's just like with music in a way, you have to have an ear for it. And you can develop an ear for it too. You don't have to have it right away, but yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah.
It reminds me of Eric Spoelstra. So for those that may not know, Eric Spoelstra actually used to do the tape. He was the tape guy. He would actually edit all the game tape for the coaches. That's what he started as. He was the guy that edited all the game film.
That's crazy. That's a lot of work, man, to go from
that. And
now you're coaching.
What I would probably take from that, hearing his story, is he's editing the film, but learning the plays and learning about the game at the same time he's editing. And then he's handing it off in the film room and watching the coach talk about it and learn about it. So to come from the editing floor of it to being the coach, I thought that was kind of, I think it's kind of brilliant. If you want to say with Pat Riley saying, like, this guy knows everything we're trying to do. He's seeing all the plays and kind of You know, I probably wouldn't have thought to do that, to elevate somebody from that realm of it. But then now that I think about it, now it gave me a different lens and perspective to look at it, which kind of ties into how they may have saw you doing all this and like, well, he's doing everything already. Let's have, you know, have him do everything else. So tell me about Illinois.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. On 88.1 FM. It was with DJ Real One. And
right.
Tell me about what was hip hop radio like in Chicago, like the early 2000s?
Man.
And then also, can you elaborate a little bit on house music? Because I learned years later, like house was a big thing in Chicago. I didn't even know that until I met Juice. You know,
he told you, yeah.
Yeah, Juice was like, man, house in Chicago is, you know, so on and so forth. I was like, oh, word, I didn't even know that. So can you kind of like tell me about those two realms?
Right, yeah. Big up to Juice, man. He's one of the illest of all time. I mean,
greatest freestyler.
Man, the legendary battles, you know, that he's gone through over the years, and I'm sure today he could still rhyme circles around anybody. Yeah, so like Illinois, again, shout out to my guy DJ Real One. That was his show that he established like in 98, 99. Mm-hmm. And then I came on later because he was having a hard time DJing and then having to answer the phones and do all the technical stuff. Yeah. So he's like, I know you like, because I was already doing the sports stuff. He's like, I know you like this, but man, I know you're a hip hop dude. Come do this with me, you know. And I was like, you know what? I want to change it up because you know how it is. Sometimes you want to do something different and see if this is actually something you theoretically could do. But just to make it new, make it fresh, you know. I was like, I definitely want to do that. Let me jump in and I'll be the host. I think I went by MJ when I hosted. I wasn't DJ Soundwave yet. I just like, you know what? I'll use my initials, you know. And so he played a lot of like underground independent stuff because we were, you know, a college station. We were like 100 watts. So you had to be fairly close to the school to hear the show. So no commercial hip hop stuff. I'm sure your stuff got played on there for sure. Anything from like 99 to like 2004, we played on there that was like underground, independent. There were a lot of house shows. That station actually is known for its house music. It's called Chicago's Underground, and they really cut their teeth in radio as being a house music station. So they had legendary, you know, DJs on there doing house shows, and I can't front, like I didn't really get into house music. It wasn't really for me. Like I got it, and freestyle music they call it. Also, I just couldn't. I couldn't get into it, but it was the best thing as far as like going to clubs and stuff. You're gonna hear.
How about because. You know, me being in New York at the time, one of our biggest records was like, you know, Jungle Brothers, Our House.
Oh yeah, right.
Was that kind of still? Did that capture you in any shape, form, fashion? Even because Jungle Brothers, they weren't doing house music, but that song was such a big record.
And if you remember, a lot of artists back then would have like one house song on their record, like Queen Latifah, right? She had that one track, you know. Yep. Come into my house, give me money. Like, you know, everybody had maybe it was like, maybe it was a native tongue thing. I don't know. But a lot of artists, I think EPMD even had one. Yeah. I'm trying to think of all the records back then. There was always like one house record. And I think, you know, like you're saying, like in New York, maybe there was like a murmur of like, hey, there's this other music. Maybe we should tap into this because a lot of house DJs are playing hip hop songs. If we could get a song played in their set, we can maybe gain some more fans, or maybe get a song played on their shows. And you know, like, oh, who's this EPMD? Who's Queen Latifah? You know, I'm a house dude, but now I like Queen Latifah. You know what I mean? And Kill Rob G with the Power. Like that's a song that kind of crosses genres. It was like kind of a little bit of everything. And man, Fast Eddie's big from Chicago. Like he was rapping, but it was like in a house style. And yeah, man, you're right. A lot of those Queen Latifah records, classic. Jungle Brothers. I remember when those songs came out, I was like, oh, they're doing house. That's kind of cool. Wasn't my thing necessarily, but I understood why they did it. And being from here, I got why they liked it. But wasn't necessarily, you know, my favorite genre. I'm probably like, I shouldn't say that because like Chicago dude, watch out. you got a house is supposed to be #1, so that's on me.
Yeah, give me some insight on what it was for you to go to Columbia College.
Oh man,
you know, Chicago, you know, for to be a radio, you know, to get into radio, right? How was that decision made to say I'm going to go there for radio when you can do there's probably you know, is it like only radio, or is they had science, they had math, or what else?
Oh yeah. Oh, they had I mean, it's a you know, basic, you know, I got a bachelor degree from there. From, you know, I had to take math classes and science and all that stuff too, right? But
so how hard was that to decide that you're going strictly for this? You know what I'm saying? Because
I'm about to out myself. I'm about to out myself. So when I was in high school, and the guidance counselor, he was looking at my SAT scores. And he's like, didn't you say you wanted to work in radio or something? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, these SAT scores aren't the greatest, so you could probably go to Columbia College or some school like that, you know, because they're not world renowned for, like, you know, higher education. It's more, you have a set of skills you would like to pursue. We offer that, but we also give you a bachelor's degree, so you have to learn other stuff as well. You're well-rounded, which I love it because it helped me become more well-rounded. I mean, some people go to just a trade school just to learn one skill, and that's great too. But I feel like you miss out on all the aspects of education and college. And, you know, it's good to know history classes and things like that, even if that's not your major or that's not something you're looking for. But,
what was the first class? What was the first class? Like the first, you know, because we're talking about you can do going as a major. And a lot of us that have, you know, gone to school, you know, or if you haven't gone to school, as far as on the higher ed level, you got to take a certain amount of courses to get out of there, but they have to stick within that major. So what's the trajectory of everything like? So you start in the first day, you're going to this class, and then you got to go here. What's that first class like? What is
I think it's called Intro to Radio, which is like, you know, very generic name, but back then that's what it was called. And we would all be in it. There'd be like 20 of us in a class, and inside the class there would be like a makeshift radio station with like, there'd be like glass, and like on the other side of the glass would be it was like like you were in a classroom of a radio station. So it's awesome. And basically everybody had to like create a talk show, or we did music shows too, and you had to go in there, and now the whole class is basically your audience. So the speakers are in there, they hear you. And you would do your radio show, you would do, you know, your intros and outros in the music or some sort of talk show, whatever, and they would critique, and we would all critique each other. And, you know, then it was your turn to get back in. And sometimes you do, you know, co-hosts, like, all right, I'm going to be with this dude. I don't even know him, but we're going to have to figure out a show on the spot, you know, something like that. So that was like the first class. And I think a class like that, you're going to weed out people who don't want to do this. So you're going to know right away if this is for you. And I was like, I mean, I'm a little worried about, you know, everybody's a little shy, you know, you don't like your voice. That's another thing. I don't know if for you, Wordsworth, did you ever hear your voice back? Like, oh man, I got to change my pitch, or I got to do that. It's like,
man, now that I hear my voice from back then, I'm happy I sound different, because then it shows some evolution of me. But I definitely was super high pitched. And at that time I got comparisons. It was so many comparisons I went through. I went through the Eminem comparison. I went through the Cameron comparison. I went through so many voice comparisons to whoever's out. That's just how it is in the game, right? Whoever's out, you get compared to somebody that's out.
And hot, right? Somebody that people know. They're all
and then eventually over time, it just was like, oh, okay, you know, you do enough work, you kind of carve out your own lane in there. So as you're in there, and that sounds super dope, man. It reminds me of my class. I have the same thing. I have the same setup. I have glass and everything, and like a stage in my classroom and everything for TV, for the school news. So as you're in there, what about the next step as far as now you're writing, right? So I'm sure is there a journalism class you have to take?
You know what? It wasn't a prerequisite. Like, you didn't have to take it. So I did take, I think, 1 or maybe 2 radio journalist class, and basically they focused on like reporting the news. So we would have to you look over like AP, which people don't know, Associated Press. It's basically when reporters from all over the country filter in their stories into like one conglomerate, and then you could pull those stories and use the audio and whatever at your own will. So we had to do that. We were like, look at the AP wire, so they called it back in the late 90s. And you would find like stories that were happening, and you can't just use them straight from verbatim because it's like copyright. You got to write your own version of that. So like when I was going to that class, I think Columbine had happened. So we had to like write a story about that. So we would get like the facts about it, but we had to work it into our style of broadcasting. And then I'm so-and-so, we're talking about this is what happened in Colorado today, blah, blah, blah. And I
got a question about that, which I have some of these questions. I got questions lined up here, which are delving into what you're saying. So I kind of want to have like a 2-part question with you. So looking at back then, and so what did the college teach you that's still relevant today? And then I do have a question that I had here lined up about, how much research you do before these interviews. So you're delving into that aspect, dealing with Columbine and Associated Press, where you're grabbing things from. So from back then, are the rules and expectations still the same today, or what has changed? And the research, how important is it for you?
I mean, the research is critical. I mean, I don't know how anybody could wing something. I mean, I guess certain people probably do. And I mean, even for like this part of it, I was getting a little nervous, Wordsworth, because I was like, I don't have anything prepared. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I'm used to like, delving into other people's business and, putting stuff out. So, the research is critical. You've got to know, because you could talk about one thing and then it goes somewhere else. And if you're not prepared to also talk about those other topics because you haven't done any research, it's a problem. It could be a problem. So, but I will say this, like what they taught me and what I use for myself is just be conversational. Listen to what the person is saying as opposed to like bullet points. Like if I'm interviewing you and I asked you about, your album with Stu Bangas and asked you about, a track on there, and you start telling me about, the first time you did a live show, and then I go back to talking about some track on the album. Like, well, I should be asking you about the live show. I mean, I should follow up on that. Like that's like the number one thing I feel like I've learned and taken with me. And a lot of the technical stuff, of course, teaching me how to edit and, production is very key, man, because I hear a lot of podcasts and radio shows for that matter. And it's like, man, they don't really have an emphasis on that. And I take a lot of pride in my finished product. Like when I put it out, I got an intro, I got an outro, I got little drops in here. I got the interview, but even the interview, I try to concise it. I don't take things out for, I'm not trying to like edit it to where somebody sounds better. I don't mean like that. Just take out, the things that don't belong in there. If there's like 20 seconds of not talking, take that out. Don't leave that in there, like stuff like that. So check the volumes. So a lot of it is like the technical stuff, but I think the number one thing that I got from school and from working in the radio side of it was just be a good listener and be conversational. And, when there's a big story, follow up on it, research it, and don't talk about something you know nothing about. You're going to look like a fool. So,
How long do you typically research before an interview?
I usually try to do like a whole week because I don't like to get ahead. Like sometimes for the podcast, and I'm sure you have like similar, schedules and timelines. I already know who I'm going to interview like next month, or a month in advance. But I don't want to really look at their stuff yet because I want to focus on who's next. It's like in sports. You don't want to play the game that's next week. You got a game today. Yeah. So focus on the game first that you have in front of you instead of the game that's coming up. Now, that doesn't mean you can't like look up some stuff on that person later on while you're still preparing for the one you've got coming up next. But I just take like a week. And it's a lot of times I interview people who have, hip hop artists so that I have to hear an album. I don't want to play the album an hour before I talk to the person. Like that's lame, man. So I try to play it, live with it for like a week. You know what I mean? And then like pick out 2 or 3 songs that I focus on and play them over again. And if I could try to find some lyrics maybe to bring up and, of course, go on YouTube and watch some videos or something. And so, usually about a week. Sometimes, like I said, I don't know how you have it, but sometimes I'll have some dead time where like I'll go like 3 weeks and I'll do the show because I don't have any guests. I basically do them as I get guests. So I'm not going to just do a show for the sake of doing a show. If I don't have a guest, you know, it's going to be a couple weeks before you hear me again. So I don't force anything, which is good. That's why I keep doing this. Because if I was on a rigid schedule every week, I don't think I could do it, man.
Yeah. That was one thing I learned about doing this too, was I had like 20 episodes before I even started.
Oh man.
So I did a whole bunch I had them canned in, and then that way I was already ahead for months.
Right.
So I did it that way, and that helped me a lot. Now kind of like I'm kind of caught up to where I'm at with it, with like doing the interviews. Like you said, like, you know, I'll do the interview and then I'll have it and kind of schedule it. So I have some interviews that's sitting there, and then I'll just wait because then I can have it to buy time.
Right.
But yeah, I learned that from somebody, John Robinson. Shout out to John Robinson.
Oh,
He had told me that. He was like, man, just do a couple, make sure you stock up, because then that way it'll alleviate the pressure of being week to week. So I had a lot done before. And then of course you release them, and then now you get to that point of like, oh, I got to do another.
You're all dried up.
Yeah, you got it. Right. Yeah. And I noticed that's what the major podcasts do too. You know, like you watch Drink Champs, and then they're off for a couple of weeks doing, you know, you'll see something that you may have seen before. And so I kind of run with that technique of it. Could you tell me something that what's a mistake that you made on air that you learned from? You know, did you ever miss a cue or something that was like crazy?
Yeah.
You was like, you know?
Man, there's a lot. I mean, so here's the thing, like I said, with the podcast specifically, I'm editing it. If I burp, like if I stutter, I take it out. So when you hear it, I sound like, man, this guy's really good at speaking. Not always. There's some stuff I took out you don't know about it, you know. Yeah. So I have a lot of pride in the finished product, but my thing has always been is talking too fast, slowing down. And I've been meaning to do it, and I haven't done it. I want to put like a big note like next to the computer when I'm recording. Slow down, just like Brand Nubian, just slow down. Like, because sometimes I find myself when I listen back to it, I'm like, man, I'm talking too fast. I'm like, you know, words are kind of jumbling on top of each other. And right now, as I'm saying it, I'm thinking about it. I might be talking too fast already. And I can't edit this. Wordsworth, you got to make me look good. So.
You know, it's funny because when you were talking about editing, I actually had that question about editing in here. Yeah. And I'm glad you got to it. But as far as this, like, have you ever edited out something that the artist or interview, you know, the person that you interviewed said something and you was like, I might have to cut that out, like, or like, you know, or you just was like, I'm just gonna leave it because I guess is there a tug of war between your integrity as a journalist and radio host versus should I conceal what they said? And you know, so I kind of see today, you know, today is kind of looking online at YouTube, I find it to be messy, man. Like, I don't want to do anything messy in my world on doing this, but you know, how do you balance that seesaw?
Man, your timing for this question is impeccable, man, because the episode I just released on Friday was with Damon Wilson from Sanford & Son, because he just recently passed.
Yeah.
I interviewed him in 2020. It's the only interview I've ever done where I didn't put it out because I was uncomfortable with a majority of things he was saying. He was, I don't want to air it all out here because I didn't put it in. Basically what I did was, so there's a couple things. I wasn't comfortable with his interview, and I really don't want to say anything negative because he was very nice to me. He gave me his time and he passed, and I'm trying to do right by him. But I had the interview in a folder for like 6 years, man. And I never touched it. I guess it'd be like the equivalent of like you recorded something with somebody that you really wanted to work with, and they dropped the verse, and you're like, there's nothing to do with what I was trying to do. I can't release this. You know what I mean? So, I revisited it after he passed. I was like, let me go back to it and see if I can find something out of it. So it was an hour and 33 minutes. I only released 42 minutes of it. So I only say this just to say that there are times, but it's very rare. This was like the big exception, like the obvious one, where I was like, man, I can't put this out because I don't agree with anything he's talking about, and I'm uncomfortable. And I'm not TMZ. I'm not one of these mustache podcast dudes. I
Yeah.
don't do that show. I'm not
Right.
sensationalist. I'm not trying to go viral. I'm just trying to have a good conversation about something I like to promote. And I was a big fan of the show, and I was like, he barely wanted to talk about it. So it kind of, and it was the first year I was doing this. So I've learned a lot since then. I should have,
Right.
I'm more mad at myself. This is a good lesson. I should have reined them in. So if there's anybody that I have on and they start going off in like some tangent, I got to be like, hey, look, man, you could talk about that, but this ain't the show for that. I should have stopped them. But I was being polite, I thought, in my brain. And I just kind of let him go. And I was like, in hindsight, I was like, that was a mistake. Because then he thought it was okay to talk like that. And I was like, oh, man, this is brutal. What am I going to do with this audio? So, you know, that's the major example. But there's been other times. I mean, for the most part, I'll be honest, like everybody I've had on has been great. There hasn't really been, I'm really against like censorship. So it was really hard for me to take stuff out. Like it's like going against my morals, but then my ethics were involved here. So, yeah, if somebody says something that I don't agree with, I don't want to just take it out and then they're not aware of it. They go play like, man, why'd you take it out when I said that? I was trying to make a point. So I do try to keep everything in, and I usually only edit out like, you know, technical stuff, like yawns or, you know, coughs or something like that. But yeah, that last one I just did, it's crazy you asked me that because I just put it out. And I felt a certain way about it too. I was kind of, I don't know, man. Like maybe one day you'll interview somebody who just goes off the rails and you're like, whoa, man, this is not what I'm doing here. Hopefully it never happens, man. But
nah, you know, I've done some interviews and I just stop people right then and there. Like,
yeah, you're smarter than me because I didn't do it. I was scared.
I'll stop them, man. I'll stop and be like, yo, I can't really play that right there, you know, because I let them know that, you know, of course I've cursed and I've had songs that I'm like, now that I'm older and mature, I'm like, oh, you know, that's me, younger words versus older words. Or, you know, so I just try to stop them and just let them know, like, you know, I have an audience of people that are in education. I got my students sometimes watch, and I try to just, you know, but I don't edit out the cursing heavy, you know, unless you curse too much. Yeah, you know, I've had to do that. I've had to edit out a lot of it. When somebody's cursing too much, I'll leave a few curses in there. But like when it's getting too much with the cursing, I'm like, I gotta take this out because it's just getting a little over the top.
Right.
But I've definitely stopped people and just kind of let them know that the reason why. I'm like, hey, I got kids that watch this, you know. So like,
exactly.
Yeah,
you've got people who you work with who are gonna maybe stumble upon
that. So, you know, some of that I'm just kind of like, you know, I let them know. But for the most part, everything that people talk about, I leave in there. And like I said, it's just if you're cursing too much, I kind of feel like, all right, we got to kind of reel this in a little bit. So what was your most important interview to you?
Oh man. So I'll say the one I had the most fun doing. Of course, Words with yours is, you know, top of the list. Both times, you know, salute. But
thanks, man.
Okay, so there's a couple that stand out. My favorite one I've ever done was when I interviewed Chill Will in 2021, I believe it was. And I was just so geek because this comes back all the way back to what I was talking about at the beginning with Lottie Dottie. Like that's my genesis. You know what I mean? So when he said he would come on, I was like, are you serious? Like Chill Will he'll actually give me like time and just talking about Lottie Dottie and the show and Dougie Fresh and Slick Rick. And it was just, whenever people ask me like, what's a good episode to play? I'm like, episode 86, go to that one. That's my favorite episode I've done. But there's a lot. Like in the early days, like so I started doing this in 2019 in February. I remember like Cool Rock Ski from the Fat Boys said he would come on. I just DM'd him on Instagram. I mean, I don't know how, you know people, so it's, Wordsworth message you, you're like, all right, yeah, I could do that. But like, who's this Mark dude? I don't know what the hell this guy is, like whatever. But when these people say yes to me, I'm like, oh man, this is crazy. All right, Cool Rock Ski's coming on. Cool Kim came on in that first year, and he was just a blast, man. He was giving me a hard time about Vanilla Ice because I said I didn't like Vanilla Ice. and he gave me this great drop where he's like, I know you like Vanilla Ice and all that. He always teases me. Every time I reach out to him, he teases me about Vanilla Ice to this day. So shout out to Cool Kim. But yeah, those artists like that. And then there's even like actors I've had on. Like, I'm a huge fan of The Walking Dead. I've had like
Me,
6 or
me
7
too.
actors.
I like
Okay.
Walking Dead. I like
Oh
Walking Dead.
man. So I had Vincent M. Ward, who played Oscar in the jail, the season where they were in the prison. He was one of the first guys I had on. And Lou Temple, who was on The Walking Dead, he played Axel, who was also one of the prisoners in that season, if you remember. And I'm a big fan of Friday 13th movies. So like a lot of actors from the, Russell Todd, who was in the Friday 13th Part 2, I had him on. And that was just a blast. Just talking about these movies I grew up with. I probably shouldn't have been watching those movies when I was 10 years old, but I was watching them back when we were getting the VHS tapes. But so I don't really have, I guess Chill will be my one answer, but everybody's been awesome, man. But you're getting some of those bigger names and then talking about something that's not music. Sometimes I want to talk about movies and TV shows.
Yeah,
I want to delve into something else,
That's what I'm thinking too. I'm thinking it go. I'm trying to think of the something else I'm interested in, like what you're saying,
Yeah. And even sports stuff. I had Mark Carrier on, who played out the Bears a couple times on my show. And I just had this past fall, Stephen Tulloch, who used to play for the Lions. He had a coffee he was making, and he was, promoting this coffee. And I was like, man, I would love to talk to this guy about not just football, but, I drink coffee now. I'm holding it right here. I become a coffee drinker later in life. So it was really cool to hear about, his transition from playing football at a high level to like being this promoter of coffee. I was like, man, let's talk about coffee, man. I never get to talk about this stuff.
Yeah. So what's the difference between working on your podcast versus radio?
Oh, it's very different because the podcast it's all me. Everything comes to me. I'm the executor, the producer, the host, the writer, the chief, everything. Like it's all on these shoulders. Where in radio, you're working for other people and you're working for a corporation and a company. So if something goes on, oh my God, if something goes on the air that wasn't supposed to, and you were the one pressing the buttons, they're coming to you. You're gonna get that phone call from that guy. And I've gotten that phone call many times where it's like, why didn't that commercial play? Or why was there 3 seconds of dead air between this commercial and that commercial? And a lot of times it is technical, like the machine didn't fire off, whatever. You got to explain it. Now it's like, I'm in control. I do what I want to do. I put them out when I want to put them out. I record when I want to do them. And I can make it sound as great as I can. And then I put it out. And what you hear is the best I can do with what I got. So it's definitely different. Of course, the skills from working in radio help, me fine tune the podcast. But man, yeah, it's just like if you produce your own record or something. It's like you're in control. You have final say in everything.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
So what's the purpose of Infinite Banter? Like if somebody, you run into them, a lot of people say this elevator pitch thing, right? You're in the airport, yo, I do a podcast.
Oh,
what's it about? Like people say you got to have that. What's it about? So for those that maybe listening, driving right now, have the logo up so you can identify it. When you're looking for it, you'll see it's Infinite Banter on Spotify and other places, right? So
yeah,
what's the premise? What's the overall premise? Because you do so many, variety of things.
And that might be a problem because I keep doing research and I keep seeing all these, because I'm like LinkedIn with like all these podcast people who talk about, why their show doesn't have more listeners or downloads. And usually they say you got to focus on one topic. I'm the opposite of that. I don't focus on one topic. I mean, a majority of my show is, hip hop artists coming out talking about their products and stuff. But generally, my show is kind of all over. Like I said, I talk to football players and actors and hip hop. So
it's infinite.
Yeah, thank you. You need to stand next to me in the airport. So when people ask me that, talk to my man Wordsworth. He's better with the words than I am.
It's forever. It's about things forever. It's infinite. It's infinite ideas. Yeah.
And when I came up with the name, I mean, that kind of explains a little bit too. It was right around when Infinity War came out. Avengers. I'm a big comic.
Oh, that might be my favorite movie of all time.
Yeah.
I really can watch that movie and just be like, man, it's incredible. But
I got a stack of comic books right behind me here.
Yeah, I'm glad you
see it.
Yeah. And I was gonna delve into the comic book conventions that you covered as well.
Oh man. So we'll get into that too. But I was just to say, so the name, and again, and it's like when I came up with the Soundwave name. I came up with a bunch of names, but my whole thing is I learned from hip hop, don't bite. If somebody else has it, you can't use it. So I was, the couple of names I came up with, I would search. Oh, somebody already named their podcast that. Oh man, this is like my fifth, version of what the show would be called. Okay. And so Infinity War, that's part of that. And Banter, I just did the usual thing, took a thesaurus. Like, what are other words for talking? What's a synonym for talking? What's another word? And like Banter, that's dope. Infinite Banter. All right, that's it. That's what it's gonna be. Boom, that's it. That's the show. Infinite Banter. That's what it's called. And it's about everything, but not specifically anything. it's that. But mostly, yeah, I talk hip hop and movies and TV and I talk to artists who do comic books. It's everything. It's just what it comes down to is just what I like. To be about myself. It's just what I like, and I don't know if that's a really good way to pitch it to somebody who doesn't know me. Well, I don't care what you like. Why would I care? Oh, yeah, I guess we're not going to have a listener then. But that's what I do. I just do it for the love of what I like, and hopefully enough people dig it and they tune in, and that's my pitch. My pitch probably isn't that great. Wordsworth, like I said, you could do a better one for me.
Nah, man, the title within itself explains something, already.
Exactly. Let the title speak for itself, man. Just like Wordsworth. Oh, so you must be good with words. Yes.
Yeah, but I get called wordsmith a lot too, so.
Oh man, that's my cousin.
It's all good. Yeah, so you were talking about comic books. I actually collect comic books as well. I haven't collected comic books in years though, but I have a whole bunch. I have a crate of comic books, and I've posted some of the comic books I have like on my Instagram.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah, how did you get into, I guess, saying like, okay, I'm gonna cover these comic book conventions as well? Was that kind of like when you got, I guess, that notice that you can do it and say, hey, we need somebody to cover that? Like, how did that all start?
Yeah, so everything I like goes back to the 80s for some reason. So like when I got to hip hop music, I also got into comic books and Transformers and all this stuff. So yeah, like you, I got boxes in the closet of comic books, but mine are all like, I'm weird. I have them all in alphabetical order and numerical order. It's crazy. They're all bagged and very specific. I even had them cataloged for a time. So when I would go to conventions, if I wanted like Iron Man 78, I needed like something to look in to see if I still had, do I have 78 or not? I don't want to buy it if I already have it.
It's funny you said that Iron Man number. I think I have Iron Man 73.
There it is. Hey,
you saying that like writing that number? I'm like, I got Iron Man 73.
And someone in the comments gonna be like, "Well, Iron Man 78, just so you know, is and like I can't tell you. I don't know what that is. I just use a generic number, but so I started going to comic conventions way before the podcast. Okay. I think the first comic book convention I went to was, so there's a couple in the Chicago area. Oh, it's 2004. It was called Wizard World. And Wizard World was a publication that would put out, magazines about comic books and conventions. And they hosted one from 2004 to like maybe 2012, something like that. And then they repackaged themselves. Now they're called Fan Fest. Okay, and I was just going as a fan. Like I wasn't looking to do anything other than stand in line, meet some guy who sign my comic book and take a picture with a celebrity. Like that was my only goal when I first started going. And I was working in radio at that same time. But towards the end of my time in radio, and I started thinking like I would do things outside of that radio job. So around 2017, 2018, I was like, man, I can do that. I could sit on a panel and interview somebody or talk about something. I can do that. Let me just throw my name in the ring and see what happens. And there was one, it was a Walking Dead convention called Stalker Con. And they had a lot of the CW shows. So like Flash, Green Arrow, Black Lightning. And that's the one I did a Q&A for. Yep. It was crazy. And man, speaking of hip hop, Krondon was on that show.
Yep.
And he was on that panel. So it was him, Cress Williams, who played Black Lightning, and James Remar, who was also on that show. If you remember him from 48 Hours, that's Gans. Look for Gans. Gans is in Chinatown. So they were all on. I do bad impressions too. So we were all on this panel, and I got to sit there and just mediate it. It was so much fun. Unfortunately, that convention went away, so I couldn't revisit it and do it again. But
yeah,
I would love to do that. But currently, when I go to C2E2, which is the other big convention here in Chicago, I always ask for a press pass.
Okay.
And then they'll email me saying, hey, we got this person. Can you interview them for your podcast? And I've done a couple on site where I'll have my phone, I'll interview them, and I'll record it, and then I'll put it in the podcast later. There was one time where I'm a big Star Wars nerd too. Mark Hamill's son, Nathan Hamill, he makes toys and stuff. And they asked me, can I interview him? Because he's going to be at the convention. He's like, but you can't ask him anything about his dad or anything about Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like, he just wants to talk about his stuff. I'm like, cool, no problem. I'm professional. I know what I'm doing. I'm not going to be that guy. So he was great. I had him on. And so, like, stuff like that, like, there's a convention coming up at the end of the month. I hope that they ask me to talk to somebody, that'd be great, or I can maybe put my hat in the ring for somebody to talk to, it's going to be there.
I took my kids to Comic-Con in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, cool, man.
So this is years ago when they were younger, and that was like something that I wanted them to experience. So it's dope. They was able to see people dressed up. We were able to, they was in the at the time getting the pops. And
man, I got so many pops, dude.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
So
there's some back here.
Yeah, we were into that, collecting that, but it was dope just because they was into just that pop culture. Just wanted to have them go somewhere that I could see something. What path would you suggest someone take to get into the profession?
Oh man, for doing podcasts and stuff, or radio in general.
Radio, podcasting.
Okay.
Now that you've seen the evolution of it, back then's journey is probably different than today's.
So, without a doubt. Yeah.
So what would you suggest for that?
Yeah, because it's going to be very different from how I came through it, because I went to school that taught radio, and at Columbia College, unfortunately, they've kind of gotten rid of the radio program. So my path doesn't exist anymore, at least the one I took.
Okay.
I'm sure, and I'd have to go check their curriculum, right? Do they have some sort of podcast class or something like that? Because unfortunately, radio is not the same, man. People don't go to the radio for music and information like they used to. We got a new car where I'm playing, Rock the Bells on it. I never play AM or FM. I have no idea what people are talking about on there, because I don't listen to it, or I'll play somebody's podcast. So unfortunately, that has become less of a thing for people to go into, which I feel is kind of it's not good to me, because I feel like that's the basic training. It's like if you want to be a DJ or an MC, you got to learn the foundations first before you could just jump right in and do it. And I feel like because I worked in radio, it helped me do the podcast as professional as I can do it. And so I think that what people need to do is that they need to find, I guess, their voice. It'd be number one thing. Like, what do you want to do? What do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
But I don't know how you would. The thing is, if you don't go to some sort of school to learn, I don't know how you could train yourself on it. I guess you could gotta. I'm guessing a lot of people do podcasts. They're just doing it. They're winging it. They're just doing it as they go and putting it out. And God bless them if that's how it works for you. And but I would say ideally you would go to a school and you would learn how to use these tools to edit software and audio and learn how to just format a show and how to put one together and how to book it, how to research. Otherwise, you're just doing it on your own. And I heard someone say this about podcasting. They said that it's the easiest thing to start, but the hardest to maintain. That is very, very true, because I remember it took me like a month to do one episode. I couldn't figure out what to do. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to start it. But once I started doing it, I was like, man, I don't want to quit. But a lot of people, man, you've probably seen it. There's podcasts that pop up and you're like, where did that one go? It's gone.
Yeah.
They can't do it because they don't have the foresight or the wherewithal or just the training to know how to continue to do it. Do
you find younger, I guess, entrepreneurs or podcasters, radio hosts, do you find them receptive of your knowledge?
I would hope so. Yeah, I think so. Whenever somebody asks me, there's been a couple that have reached out and been like, man, how do you get these people on your show? I'm like, I just DM'd them. Or you know, a lot of times you go on Instagram. Instagram to me is my favorite social media platform.
Yeah.
You know, they'll have like an email in their bio. Just hit them, just write an email, you know, but be professional in the email or the DM. Don't say, I'm a fan, you got to come on. Like, nobody wants to answer that. You know, don't flood them. Don't bother them. You know, be professional. Work up a way to template a message to ask and present your show, because it's one thing. Like, I'm sure when I hit you up, you're probably like, you know, I know what this guy is. I came on before, but if I hit you up and was like, hey, Wordsworth, I just like all your songs, you just come out and talk on my show, like, that's not enough of a reason for you to say yes. You got to know, why am I a show you'd want to appear on? And, you know, what is the show even about? You know, what if I do a show about stuff that you don't like?
Yeah, sometimes, you know, I'll send somebody, you know, even people that may be friends of mine, I still send them a link. Hey, this is the interview I did with such and such, so you can get an idea of what it's going to be about, what we're talking about. Right. Because like I said earlier, it's so messy with gossip that people think I'm going to probably want to interview them to get gossip and beef. But then when they see that I'm actually asking them about their personal creative aspects, they're more like, oh, I don't mind talking about that. I love to talk about that. Because it's just kind of messy. It's messy out there.
It is more comfortable for them. They feel like they're coming into a safe place.
Yes.
You're not gonna sabotage them with some sort of like,
those are the perfect words. Those are the perfect words. The safe space and not sabotaging.
Without a doubt.
I'm not gonna reel you in to take you down some path of talking about somebody, negative vibes. I don't want no negative vibes. I just want to celebrate the artists and their creativity. 100. So you guys spoke about earlier about like episode 86, right? That's one of your best. What are 3 interviews you would recommend people, you know, check out that may, you know, first time hearing you on here now, and you're like,
right,
man, that episode 86 and these 2 episodes here, that will reel people in to come watch the show and listen to the show?
Well, I'm gonna gas you up. Episode 226 with Wordsworth.
Oh, thanks, man.
Because I got a lot of good feedback about that. I've had people come back to me. It's like, man, that's like a grown man episode. and wow. I shouted him out earlier, DJ Real One, because he listens to all my episodes. He's like my #1 fan, because we go back, you know, years. But he's like, man, Wordsworth got me wanted to go in the studio, because he does production and stuff and makes beats. He's like, I want to get back in there and do stuff, because I heard what he was saying, and it just, the way he was presenting how you know, you do your stuff, but you also have other avenues that you do. And it was enlightening to some people. So that would be one. And it's always good to play recent stuff too. I feel like, you know, never play episode 1. Now I said that, people go listen to it. I hate it. it's so cringe, man. But yeah, that would be one, you know, the one with you on it. And I'd mentioned, you know, other ones before, like Chill Will and stuff, but I really had a good time. There's a short film called Room for Dessert. I don't know the episode number, but I had Pamela Davis Nolan and Theodis Crane. Theodis Crane was in Walking Dead, and he was also in Five Nights at Freddy's. And there's a short film. It's really powerful. And they both came on to talk about it. It's like a 10-minute film about basically somebody goes into a restaurant to order cake, but there's a lot of strife going on in his life, and things happen. And just to hear the director and the actor side of it, you know, how they came to this film and how he portrayed this character who ends up, you know, killing somebody in this short film, but the grief that he had, you know, because of society in a way, that was one of my favorite episodes. That was a really heavy episode, and I kind of sat back and let them do their thing, you know what I mean, and chimed in here and there. What's another one? Man, there's so many that I had fun with. I do Halloween episodes too, because I love, you know, horror movies and stuff. So, you know, anything I talked about with Friday the 13th, you know, like I said, that there's an episode with Russell Todd. I really liked that. I did. Or Ty McLaughlin, who directed Part 6. That was one of my first episodes I did. That was you know what? My episode with Acrobatic was dope.
Shout out to Acrobatic.
Man, because he talked about his health. Like, because at the time, it was early 2020 when I messaged him and I had him on the show. And I was like, yeah, we got to talk about that, because he made a whole song about going into cardiac arrest or whatever, right? So, yeah. Man, that was a great episode, and you know, shout out to Acrobatic. That was like one of those episodes I knew I was on the right path, because I was like, man, this is great. And you know, the funny thing about Acrobatic was, he said he only agreed to do it because he saw that I had interviewed a wrestler on the previous episode, and he loves wrestling. So he was like, because you interviewed B. Brian Blair from the Killer Bees. He's like, man, I know you're my guy because you like wrestling. So shout out to Acrobatic.
Show my age with it. I went to WrestleMania 3 at Madison Square Garden on the screen though. You know when they had the my dad took me to see WrestleMania 3, man, on the screen.
That's crazy.
What was that called? Wide circuit? World circuit?
Yeah, right. A closed circuit, right?
Closed circuit TV.
That's it. Yeah.
So, yeah, man. We went to WrestleMania 3 and I watched that.
I'm jealous.
I think if I'm right, that's Mr. T in that one. Right?
WrestleMania 3 was Hogan versus Andre.
Oh yeah, Hogan versus Andre. There we go.
That was in Detroit. Yeah, it was like 93,000 people at the Silverdome.
Yeah, man. And that was amazing because now that I look at it, like, you know, that was kind of like ahead of its time too. Like I'm going to Madison Square Garden and think I'm actually going to it, but then I got then I see it's closed circuit, but I still able to appreciate that moment to go there and do that. I mean, I had the ring, I had all the you know, figures that had their arm just stuck one position and bounce them off the rope.
They didn't move. They
didn't move at all.
Yeah, like I had Hillbilly Jim and Junkyard Dog, and they couldn't do anything.
Yeah, man. Hacksaw Jim Duggan. So I'm a wrestling fan too. I had to, at some point, then I just, you know, stopped watching. But as far as the essence of loving it, man, I had all of that.
Man, I was going to say, like, when you went to MSG to watch it, you said you thought you were going to the actual event? Were you were you bummed when you got there? You're like, oh damn, it's just a screen.
Not really once it started, right? Because like at first it was kind of like thinking it's that. Then I get there, I don't know what's happening until it comes on the screen. Like I don't know if you know, what is that? What year is that? I don't remember.
That would have been 87.
Okay, 87. So 87, I'm 12.
Right.
So at that time, I'm aware of life stuff, but my appreciation to just be taken somewhere.
That's great, man.
It as any other, like now that I teach middle school, I can understand like there is gonna probably be like like this ain't it in the vibe. But then, right? But then once it started, I appreciated being taken in and watching it. So the appreciation, and I just think that's just a kid thing in general. Like if they think this and then they see it's that, it's gonna be that for a minute or two. But after they get into it, you get your popcorn and you're watching it. And you're like, hey, I never seen this, is new, and I'm actually watching it. You know, all that goes away. But
that's my favorite WrestleMania right there. That you're talking about. By the way. Macho Man versus Ricky Steamboat is my favorite match of all time, which is in that. You know what? You're taking me back because, like, I remember the first time I went to a Cubs game, and you know, first time I went to see wrestling live. Like, it was just such a cool thing as a kid. Like, you watch it on TV every week, but you're gonna be there. Like, you're gonna see it in person. Like, that just blew my mind as a kid. The few times I got to see wrestling at the Rosemont Horizon, that's what it used to be called back in the 80s. They do those promos.
Some wrestling events here. My wife, her co-worker owns a wrestling, like local wrestling event.
Oh wow, yeah.
So sometimes she'll sing the national anthem before it starts.
Oh, that's crazy.
And then we sit there, you know, we're ringside and you're watching wrestling go on in like a restaurant back area and it's sold out. And I wonder if they still do it, but I've been to like a couple of those local wrestling ones.
Right.
That was dope. And her co-worker was I guess you would say a sensei at a karate school.
Oh, okay. Serious. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was one of his other things, was doing the wrestling. So, you know, it was dope, man. Well,
I love wrestling, man. I don't watch as much as I used to.
Yeah.
I'm like everybody, like I have like peaks and valleys. Like there's times I completely don't watch, and then there's times I kind of jump back in. It's kind of hard, you know, for me to get into it now because it's on so many different platforms. I can't even keep track of where's what and I don't even know how to watch it.
I'll be honest, man. I got out of it once I found out it was fake. I was like, what? This is fake. So I think that was like probably 13 and 14. I was like, oh, this is fake. I thought this was all real.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's what it was like, finding out Santa Claus is fake.
It's worse than Santa Claus. I've said this before. I was like, there's two things that kids don't like to hear about. It's like Santa Claus isn't real. Oh, by the way, sorry, anybody spoiler listening to this who doesn't know. but knowing that wrestling was fake was
devastating for me, man.
That was a gut punch.
that was it for me. Like once I found out it was fake, I said I'm out of here.
I'm done.
Yeah, I was done. Right. And then
Yeah,
that was I couldn't follow it no more because I believed it for so long. And then when I found out it was fake, I just had to be out. But I do
you
like
really
to
hated
watch
Iron
it today.
Sheik. You really thought he was, really against you, right? Nikolai Volkov was really bad. No,
Man,
you're really not that bad.
I followed those storylines thinking it was so real, and then and this is but today I can watch it knowing that it's fake because I enjoy knowing that it's fake, but I also love the entrances. I love the
The
storylines.
athleticism is off the chain now. It's
All of
crazy
that.
what they do. Yeah.
Even like looking at The Rock's legacy of his family and learning about that, and then learning about learning about the legacy of the wrestlers is interesting for me. So you'll see like the ones that's the champion, his cousins are in there they're wrestlers, and then the father was, that legacy I think is very incredible.
Oh yeah.
That can be maybe documented a little more, but
oh yeah, for sure, man. A lot of those guys, they grew up in the industry and their father, like you said, their fathers. And there's that Von Erich movie that came out a couple of years ago, and you learned about that whole lineage of all the Von Erichs, and it's depressing because a lot of them ended up having suicide, but you just see like the lineage of it and how wrestling, it's almost like, it's gonna sound bad saying it's like a circus, but it's something that you're born into and you stay with it and you do it and you pass it on and you go town to town and you interact with other cities and people, and it's more corporate and it's all it's a bigger show, but back in the day, it was so different.
Well, DJ Soundwave, man, I appreciate you coming on here.
Man, thank you.
Giving everybody a lesson on the journey of journalism, hosting, and I think the main thing that I got and I could take away from this episode is the patience and, having a history of doing this before doing it.
Oh yeah.
I think that's important, like for people to, because a lot of the way it is today for a lot of things, ever since like once the internet got into it, you get vines, attention span is shorter. People want instantaneous success.
Right.
They want it immediate. Hey, I'm starting this. I want to do this. And when you tell them, hey, I went to school, and then, you might have to do this. You might have to work here for free and work here and do this. Then they're like, I don't want to do that no more. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, man.
I don't want to do all that.
They don't pay you.
Yeah, they're like, I don't want to do all that. I just want to do the show. And it's like, but you're not learning like the basics. You're not learning about projecting your voice, writing the script, transitions, cutting and counting down and all these other things. They're just kind of like, they want the fast track. So I think it's going to be great people that watch this and they get to hear it. They'll be able to understand that it's okay. It's okay, y'all. It's okay to take the journey. It's okay to take your time and go work places and try things. And you got to feed that curiosity. And that's what keeps me wanting to do things daily. That's what keeps, Soundwave wanting to do stuff. There's a innate curiosity that we have to want to grow. And as you get older, that's kind of what fuels you to wake up every day.
Right. And I would say, also when I was working in radio for like 10, 15 years, I was a producer. Nobody who's a producer usually wants to be a producer. They usually want to be on air.
Right.
So you have to kind of just say, all right, this is the job they're giving me. I'll learn this and hopefully transition it to being on air. But a lot of times that never works out or that doesn't happen. So you got to have that realistic idea, but do the best you can at that producer stuff. When you do that, learn all those skills. And then, at the time, I didn't know that podcast was going to be a thing. It wasn't even a thing when I first started radio. I didn't even know what the word meant when I first heard it. So like, what's a podcast? Right. You do that from home? Like, that sounds crazy. But so, taking those skills, it helps when you go do your own thing. And, just like with music, I'm sure you learned a lot over the years that, man, if you didn't know those things today that you learned 30 years ago, you could not apply, and you would be, you'd be in a hard spot, right? Trying to figure something out.
I tell people all the time, like, if I didn't ask all those questions or was just attentive when doing the lounge show, I probably wouldn't have the jobs I have now. So I learned all that stuff to teach it now. So I just tell people, it's cool to be the player, but learn everything the coach does.
There you go.
Where I feel I'm at in my career is, Doc Rivers. You want to be a coach. You could win the chip as the coach, you know. So that's kind of where it may be for me right now, you know, still doing it, want to play and all that. But, you know, at the same time, you got to transition because you may win in a different role, right? You got people that win rings like what's the brothers that was coaching Dwight Howard?
There's two of them, the
And
Van Gundys.
The Gundys,
yeah.
Not Stan, the other brother won a ring being
Jeff?
on. Yep, right. Jeff won a ring with the Celtics.
Yeah, right.
And he wasn't the head coach, but getting in the right place and having the knowledge put him in the place to win the ring that he always probably wanted to win. So just kind of understanding, gain the knowledge, take the time, you know, be a part of a team, be a team player with it, and it'll get you there. So, you know.
When I think of Jeff Van Gundy, dude, sorry to cut you off, man.
Oh, no,
I always think of that. Did he get involved in like a melee where he's like hanging onto somebody's leg or something?
That's what came to my mind too.
That's the first thing that popped in my head. Is this crazy?
Me too, but I couldn't get the name. Yeah, but I couldn't get the name. It was the first thing that popped in my mind too. I was gonna say that as the hint to you, kind of like I was giving you a clue. I was gonna say like this is password. I was gonna say grab the leg of the
right. That's the first thing. And I know he's a great coach and he's probably a great person and everything, but unfortunately, that's the first thing I think of is him grabbing.
Same for me, man.
With that like 3 strands of hair hanging around.
Same thing for me, man.
You know what? But I wanted to ask you real quick too, because you grew up in New York, man. I know it's a big question, but radio for you, you know, had to be crazy to hear hip hop on the radio. Like, what was some of the stations that you would listen to and that got you, you know, kind of into hip hop music, and you know, some of the stations you were listening to back then, and the DJs and everything?
Yeah, you know, I would hear Red Alert, of course. You know, BLS, a lot of those stations. It really, but I would buy a lot of the records. So once we heard it on radio, we would buy a lot of the records. I used to kill like Run DMC. Here we go. I mean, I ran that in the ground like that.
Right.
That DMC and DJ Run.
Yeah.
I ran that record back to back. I remember I have the vision in my head of like literally what I used to do and play the record and I can remember like that. And then as I got older, you know, having the records. When you said Lottie Dottie, I automatically remember having Lottie Dottie, like the record and playing it in the living room.
That blue cover. I'll never forget it. I think
I had the gray silver label or something like that.
Yeah, right. The inner part is.
It did, right? See?
Yeah, man.
So I remember that. So I remember like a lot of monumental moments of radio for me. So for instance, me sitting there hearing Nas Halftime, and I'm sitting on the floor and Halftime comes through, and then I get the Zebra Head single the next day.
Oh, wow.
I remember Master Ace on Stretch Armstrong or Bobito rhyming, doing sound effects, and me sitting there. I remember me sitting there. Like, I have so many moments that molded who I am from listening to radio.
Right.
A lot of them are Stretch Armstrong and Bobito because that's my high school years. Right. So around then, I'm staying up super late, going, you know, recording everything. So that was really a big moment in my life. And shout out to them because even on their documentary, they shout out me and Punchline for being part of it on in the credits. I think at the end. So that's how radio affected me heavy, man, because of I was hearing the songs, but it was really more so my mom buying the songs. Anything I wanted rap wise or record wise or tape wise.
So she was supportive. She would buy it for you.
Extremely supportive.
I remember, that's awesome.
I remember Chub Rock the tape pop. She bought it. She bought it again.
Yeah.
You know,
it's got that green on it. I remember like it had like the green cover or whatever. Yeah.
You know, because we had Beat Street, which is one of the biggest record stores in New York at that time, where everything would be downtown Brooklyn. DJ Goldfinger that had mixtapes worked there. It's so much that I can get into it as far as how I was affected by radio and what I heard. But I definitely have.
That's another episode, I think.
A whole nother episode, man. I have. You know, this is what's dope about me talking to Ace. I could tell Ace exactly what I heard and how it affected me when I heard a song he put out.
Oh man!
Because so that's dope. When I talk to Ace, I'm like, Ace, you know, you're living it, so you don't necessarily know what I'm doing or how it affected me because I'm younger too. So y'all are older, and the way things affect people, you don't get to know, like, you know, I can tell you, like, when I heard a G-Rap record, you know, you're living it, so it's different. So that's why I love being able to talk to Prince Paul or Ace or Def Jeff, because I could say, yo, when you came out on, you know, we all in the same game. Yo, that verse right there, man. You don't know, you know.
Def Jeff killed it. Yep.
Yeah, you could talk with people. So yeah, man. So yeah, we got to build on something later, maybe about that.
Yeah, because being in Chicago, like you know, that's how I started. I kind of wanted to bookend it. Is like, you know, I grew up on radio, but we only had like little morsels of like hip hop, you know, that would get played here. So for me, we're like a sand in the desert, you know, where you're in New York, and like for me, it's like, dude, you're like right in the middle of all of it. Like you could turn different stations, and you're hearing Red Alert, Mr. Magic, Chuck Chill Out, you know, these guys. Marley Marl, I can't even. I think I would like have overload. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't know what to do. You know,
there's so many instances, man. You know, of DJs on the radio and what they played, and then you get Pete Rock with Pirate Radio, and you get, you know, and then that's when you learn like Marley Marl, and you know they're able to do stuff from his house because he has. I remember going to Marley Marl house too. Like he had the antenna big thing in the house, able to play from home instead of going to the station. Like that's the first time I'm seing this.
That's
stuff,
revolutionary, right? Man. Because
you
first
know,
to do that.
Yeah, that was crazy. Like, what? You doing it from the house? What? So
that's before COVID. When you're doing all this stuff from home.
Right. So it's a lot of moments that I just remember so monumental, man. Heading up to Marley Marl house, getting into it. We got into a crazy car accident going there, and literally going down the hill. Ice hit ice, drove off the road, ran into a shack, boom, and the whole roof caved in on us. We could have went off the side of the cliff and everything, and everybody like, yeah, everybody all right? And we still went to the house, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, Punch was there. We got into a crazy car accident, man, dealing with snow, and we made it. But, yeah, man, so I got a lot of crazy stories of just the journey.
I bet. I can't. I mean, this is just like the tip of the iceberg, speaking of, you know, cold and snow. You probably barely scratched the surface.
Yeah, man, so... But yeah, man, we you know, we could talk about all that, you know, maybe on another episode about this different moments. So many moments that I have about hearing artists that I think people don't realize. There's moments of when you hear an artist that are so that's very key to it. So, you know, I want to thank you again, Soundwave.
Oh, man. Thank you, man. Appreciate
make sure y'all go check out the Infinite Banter podcast. Can you give your social media and everything before we go?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Infinite Banter Podcast. I also have, you know, I have two, you know, Instagrams. There's also DJ Soundwave 75. If you want to check that one out, that one's a little more personal, but I do post about the podcast on there. But mostly Instagram. I'm on Threads. I don't do X anymore because I just felt like it was gross to be there, so I don't do that anymore. But yeah, the show's on all platforms. Spreaker, Spotify, anywhere that you listen to it, Apple Podcasts, it is there. You can just type it up. You should be able to find it. And I just released my 227th episode. I'm coming up on 7 years. Oh, thank you, man. And you've been on twice. The first time with JF, and it was just, you know, such a cool time having you on. You did one of my favorite drops. I mean, I don't know if you heard it in the last episode, but it's like your drop was so different than others because I ask people to do a drop sometimes. It's just very, you're checking on Infinite Banter, you know. Yours is like, you had more thought put into it. It was just amazing. So salute to you and everybody, you know, go check out, you know, my episodes. Let me know, you know, in the comments, you know, if you like any episodes you want me to, you know, write back, you know, which ones to check out. But yeah, the ones I mentioned were some of my favorites, but there's a lot of them. So, you know, big salute for, it's very, very rare that, you know, Wordsworth, that I do a podcast with somebody and then they ask me to reciprocate it and come onto theirs. So this is an honor, man. I appreciate you asking me to do this.
Yeah, man. Everybody got a story and inspiring other people. So now people can understand, you know, how to be great at what you do as well. So I appreciate you. So everybody out there, man, make sure y'all check out the Infinite Banter podcast. And like I always say, what are your words worth? Peace, y'all. Thanks again, brother. Thanks again.
Oh, thank you, man. That was a